The Wolf of Wall Street looked like fiction. Yachts, excess, money without limits. A movie about greed taken to the extreme. But what if the most unbelievable part of that film wasn't the drugs, the parties, or the lifestyle? What if the real story was the money behind it? Because the luxury you saw on screen was paid for with real money. And some of it came from a country that never gave permission. This is the true story behind the money that financed the Wolf. How billions stolen from a public fund were quietly transformed into luxury real estate across New York, Los Angeles, and London. How stolen public wealth became penthouses, mansions, and marble floors. And why, even after the scandal was exposed, much of that money never came back. This isn't a movie analysis. This is the financial reality behind it. Before the world knew his name, Jho Low was invisible. No official title, no public position, no elected power. Yet he had access to something far more valuable: trust. Born into wealth, educated abroad, Jho Low learned early that proximity to power mattered more than authority. He didn't present himself as a criminal. He presented himself as a connector, someone who could make deals happen. And when the opportunity appeared, he was perfectly positioned to exploit it. But opportunity alone doesn't create billions. So where did the money come from? The money came from a sovereign wealth fund, 1MDB, a public fund created to support Malaysia's future, infrastructure, development, growth. On paper, it looked legitimate, but from the beginning, something was different. Deals were unusually complex, transparency was limited, oversight was weak. And despite being public money, it was treated like private capital. That contradiction would become the foundation of the entire scheme. As billions flowed through offshore structures and shell companies, they began to reappear in one place over and over again. Real estate. Luxury apartments in Manhattan. High-end properties in Los Angeles. Exclusive developments in London. The purchases followed a pattern: cash transactions, shell companies as buyers. No obvious connection to a public fund. To the outside world, it looked like global wealth moving normally. But investigators later uncovered the transformation. Public money became private property. What looked like movie-level luxury was actually the physical form of stolen funds. This was the real Wolf's money. At first, the system worked. Real estate was quiet, respectable, stable. But then came excess. Penthouses left empty, mansions rarely used, luxury stacked on top of luxury. The lifestyle became impossible to hide, and the same extravagance that inspired a Hollywood movie became evidence. Because movies disappear, buildings don't. Journalists began connecting dots, noticing patterns, tracing ownership, following shell companies. Banks hesitated. Regulators stepped in. Investigations began. The illusion cracked. The money trail led back not to private success, but to a public fund. And once that connection was made, the story could no longer be contained. Authorities seized properties. Assets were frozen. Accounts were traced. Billions were identified as stolen. Some properties were sold. Others remained tied up in legal battles. But much of the money was gone. The Wolf had already spent it. Malaysia was left with debt. Citizens paid the price. Trust collapsed. What could have funded schools and hospitals became marble countertops and skyline views. This wasn't just theft. It was transformation. Public futures turned into private luxury. Why did this work? Because real estate is the perfect laundering tool. It stores value, it looks legitimate, and it rarely asks questions. No one questions a penthouse. And that's the danger. The system doesn't stop fraud. It absorbs it. The Wolf of Wall Street was fiction. But the money was real. Some of it is still out there, locked inside buildings that look perfectly normal. Which raises a final question. If stolen billions can become luxury real estate, how many buildings around the world are hiding stories just like this one? Shadow finance, where crime meets capital.